Hello, storytellers. It's Storytelling Ron, and this is about slavery. The New York City Council wants to remove statues of Washington, Jefferson, Columbus because they say they're slave owners or did bad things. It's what irony, what horrific irony these Democrats are doing. I mean, why don't we cancel them or get rid of them then? Because they're the instigators of all slavery in America. They're the ones that caused all the slavery in America. So Thomas Jefferson, we know factually that he had a clause in the Declaration of Independence that he had to remove because they threatened him. They threatened him that they would not fight in the American Revolutionary War if he had an anti-slavery clause in the Declaration of Independence. Can you imagine that? You imagine that the Democrats, and this is the pre-Democrats, but the early Democrats who were slave owners and that carried on to the Democrat Party, they threatened. Jefferson found this was the time, this is the moment for America, for the American revolutionists, to end the slavery that King George was imposing on all the colonies and to free them. And Jefferson was finally excited to put it into the Declaration of Independence. And you know, they're fighting the empire, the greatest empire in the world. And the Democrats would prefer the tyranny of the king and slavery than fighting for the freedom independence. And so they threatened Jefferson. So he had to remove it. And there's some sites I found where they just say, oh, he removed it. Well, no, he didn't just remove it. He was threatened. The entire revolutionary cause was threatened by the Democrats. That's how pathetic and horrific and evil this history is that's being erased. And if you go to this video on YouTube, I love David Barton, explains Thomas Jefferson's true views on slavery. Find this video. David Barton is a true historian. He gets actual firsthand resources. I have several of his books, but he gets the actual documents from the past. What the left is doing is erasing all of the firsthand resources. They want to erase these statues. They want to erase history and then tell you what history is. They're using like Hollywood and TV scriptwriter history. That's the history I know. Like slavery to me, I depicted it as always being blacks being suffering under white colonists. But that is absolutely not true. The numbers and the census and the actual documents from back then prove that blacks had slaves, Indians had slaves, everybody had slaves. All over the world had slavery. It was very commonplace. There was white slaves, plenty of white slaves even in America. And all we see are movies about slavery made by Democrats screaming, blaming you and me about slavery, but never themselves. The actual source of slavery here in America, the ones that threatened this slavery. Thomas Jefferson was, and based on the video and stuff I've read too, Thomas Jefferson was one of the first to ever create a law against slavery, the slave trade. And then the British, the white colonial British, continued that and had a global naval conflict against slave trades. They had I'm gonna make for the Lord RPG, some sort of naval British anti-slavery I'm gonna say badass. Oh, because I like to swear because have my atheist ways. RPG where they're fighting them in ship battles and going after Barbary Coast pirates, going after the Muslim pirates and the slave traders, and even the Portuguese if they're still slave trading at the time. I have to research the history. But it was the white dudes that ended slavery, that forced this concept of ending slavery across the world, and they were, of course, white Christian dudes. And look at this. They just want to erase this history. They don't want you to know. See, the Democrats need to erase history, the left, the Marxists. They need to erase history so you don't know, and then they'll tell you what the history was. This is total 1984 stuff. 1984 stuff, man. It's just creepy out there. It's just so sad. If you really want real history with American history, start with Wall Builders. Go there, wallbuilders.com. David Barton and his son. They use firsthand resources, and real history is just amazing and exciting and crazy. Like I'm reading firsthand diaries and people who knew people at the time, missionaries back in the 6th, 7th century, and it's very amazing. It's enlightening as to what they had to go through and what they dealt with, against paganism. All right, that's a quick little video. Please, for the sake of the Lord, man, fight this stuff, talk about it, remind them. I'm going to try to do some more about how Democrats are erasing things, or they're constantly projecting their own evil past onto Republicans, Christians, right wingers, whatever. They're constantly doing that. I'll bring out some more videos on that stuff, but it's just, but you know, I'm still good. But anyway, okay. Remember, in the game of life, roll holy dice. Oh, I'm totally going to add this. Jefferson and Washington, by the way, inherited their slaves. They inherited from their fathers when they were 14, 15. So imagine that. And then the Democrats passed laws that you could not get rid of your slaves. You couldn't free them on your death. They would just be sold off again, split and sold off. Jefferson and Thomas and Washington spent their entire life trying to keep their slaves together in their homes because they couldn't, in the states they lived in, they couldn't free them. If they would have done anything, the Democrats would have swooped in, taken all of them. That's how powerful the Democrats were. They're just like today. Like today, the Democrats are so powerful. Abraham Lincoln only got into office because the huge Democrats split the vote. That's how powerful the Democrats are in fooling people into believing in Democrats. Stop believing in the Democrats. Stop believing that they're for the poor or they're for the working class or they were for the poor. People say like in the 70s and whatever, the Democrats were for the poor. No, they were never. They just lied to you. They constantly lie in their moving agenda. They were the power of the KKK. They were the power when the KKK had power. Now it's the Antifa and BLM are getting that power. But they empower these sort of terrorist groups. They empower, and I'm glad the Democrat Party exists. By the way, I'm glad because I want evil to officially join, declare their position. So I'm glad they exist. I'm not poo-pooing that. I'm glad we know where evil is. There it is. Nice, as opposed to them permeating and hiding themselves in the dark corners and stuff. I'm glad they are out and about. Good. So we know. And they're taking over America. Oh, well. I guess that means Jesus is coming sooner. So yeah, Washington and Jefferson were stuck with their slaves. They couldn't free them. The Democrats made sure of that. And now look at them blaming Washington and Jefferson for owning slaves. The Democrats create the evil, they create the laws that destroy our freedoms, and then they turn around and blame us for it. Just like today, all the inflation and the high prices, they create the regulations, they tell you how much you can pay your employees, they tell you who you can hire and fire, and then when businesses start faltering and crime is through the roof, they blame you. Just like that party switch. They pretend there's a party switch. That's how the Republicans and conservatives were actually the slave owners and the lynchers and the KKK. They blame the Republican Party, the grand old party, for their evils. That's what evil would do, right? Evil would never say, we did this, we're sorry. Evil would never do that. Evil would always blame you for their evil, for the pain and suffering that we see around here in LA. So here in Los Angeles, all the crap, all the trash, they're blaming who? You Christians and you white men for all this trash, all this filth here in LA, because this is the environmental center of the world, totally dirty. They're going to blame you and me for it. Not themselves, not their policies. They're going to blame us. Remember, in the game of life, roll holy dice.